Hello, welcome to the Ready Player One review here on Screen Source, here on Color Circuit, here with Dylan. And you are?
I'm Fernando.
I am Evening Star.
I'm Brandon. I mean, Bon. I'm Bon.
That was weird.
And I'm
smoking the good stuff out
what?
there? I'm Jessica.
And we are here to talk a little bit about the controversial movie Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg.
yeah, definitely.
We've gotten into it
Controversial.
a couple times in the last couple days. It's been a rough time in our friendships, I think.
So strange.
and my
Yeah.
Facebook friendships.
And your
Oh my gosh.
But
many
we're all
arguments.
gonna be fine. You know, we all need to say how much we love each other at the end of this. I
Yes.
think,
Okay.
to
I
kind of
still
like,
love you guys.
yeah.
I don't love this movie.
Yeah, but we'll see after.
All there.
Well, okay, cool. Get into it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We all saw
do
it, right? Is that true? We all saw this movie.
I
Yeah.
did
You did not, but you've read the book.
Yes.
So you are a book
Okay.
or Burkmaster.
I'm a Burke nerd.
You're a Burke
Burke
nerd.
nerd. Yeah, I think it's only me and you have read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hear there are a handful of changes. Like there aren't
Handful.
as many challenges. Is that right?
There
They're
are
at
just
the
there are some
gates or
significant
whatever.
changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And
Yeah.
we'll go into that.
Cool, cool. So where do we start? I guess I'm going to say general feelings. When you walked, no, let's start beforehand. What did you guys think going into
Expected?
this? Yeah, what did you expect? You expect something very good, very bad, somewhere in between?
Well, as I had mentioned before, it was one of those things where I hoped that it was going to be good, but I suspected
Yeah.
that it was gonna suck.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
it's pretty difficult to try and make sure that something like this was going to be made. Like, there are billions and billions of cameos and homages.
This is a
inside
challenge
the
of a
novel.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And inside the movie, you get a lot into there.
Yeah.
But that means you sacrifice a lot of things going in that you couldn't really do inside the novel. Like, the scenes they did changes, how they do the challenges, they are completely different from what's
Really?
inside the book.
Okay.
So this scene that we see of him getting into a car and going into the race, that's the first challenge. So instead of in the original novel, what happens is he goes to school, and when he's going to school, he's too poor. He can't do anything else. He can't really gain money, and he finds that on his way that the first clue, all these things he finds out purely by accident, and the first one is in a dungeon on a different school
Yeah.
in a different planet that his
Okay.
friend goes to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is not in the movie at all.
No.
Very, very different. And
Yeah.
that's just talking about the first
It was,
challenge.
it was
Sure.
what's his name? H, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was H's school.
So what did you think prior to going to this? Did you expect anything?
I
from
expected it to be a clusterfuck in general, which
Okay.
the timeline really proves, especially when it comes to run length. Like,
Okay.
as I think you were
2
we were talking about
hours
this
and
earlier.
20
Yeah, I was
minutes.
bitching about the run length because I kept we saw it kind of late at night. I kept kind of dozing off, but I was awake the whole time. But it just felt really long.
What were you expecting from this movie prior to going into the theater, Jess?
I kind of had no expectations because I hadn't read the book, and I was like,
Which is the way to go in with this
Blank
film.
Yeah.
slate. I think all movies probably
I had no
blank slate's the
expectation.
best way to
Yeah.
do it.
I was
Yeah.
just like, well, we'll just see what this is about.
As far as adaptations go, there's no way to make sure that you get everything from the novel.
It's
No, it's
so
not- it's
hard
impossible.
to do
Yeah.
that.
And I also
So
think it's
hard to do that.
unfair when people say it's not like the book because movies aren't books.
You can't
Yeah.
fit
They can't
Yeah.
be the same thing.
a,
No.
They have to be
Two
real.
different mediums, the way they're gonna show
500-page
it.
book
Yeah, I was
into
assuming it
2
would have had to
hours.
have been like a series.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
To do this justice, it would have had to be something like a HBO or a Netflix series and putting a lot of money into it, like Game of Thrones type money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to do.
And there was a
It was
lot of
pretty
money in
epic.
this movie.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
It's one of the things that attracted Spielberg to this film is because there's so many homages to even works that he's done and,
Yeah.
Right.
and relationships that he has that they were able to get a lot of these.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's some parts of these that you really can't get anywhere else. Like
Sure.
if someone else would
Yeah.
have headed this, they wouldn't have the star power or the
Yeah.
buying
rights
power.
to things.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Star Wars was a big one.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did you think, Eve?
I found it entertaining. I had not read the book, but I did read some think pieces before going in.
Sure.
So I was
before
like,
going, so you had some
Yeah.
okay
yeah, I was
preconceived
like,
notions.
okay. And when watching it, I was like, yeah, cool. I understand why people have problems with this. Not related to is it like the book or not like the book. But I still found myself enjoying it. I was
Okay.
like, well, this is fun. I had a good
Yeah.
time.
I'm
Yeah.
going to piggyback off that and say pretty much the same thing. I I was trying to go in blank slate, but I was on the negative side of things just because of the amount of shit this movie was getting.
Yeah.
And even the fact that it was adapted in the first place, people were not happy, from what I've noticed. But
when you're dealing with a lot of nerds, like
they get
and
angry.
it's
man.
also in
Yeah.
a post Gamergate world.
yeah,
Right.
That's a huge issue that blew up in our faces. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
when this book came out versus when the movie's coming out, we live in different worlds and we interact with nerdness in a different
very
way.
different way. And
Sure.
it's also at a time right now, like this is probably one of the only times this movie could come out, because this is the best time when you have that nostalgia of the 80s along with that nostalgia of being a gamer and being a bad thing.
So you thought they were doing? I mean, clearly they were doing their best to capture that demographic of
Yeah.
people that grew up with all of this.
And
stuff.
it worked because I am part of that demographic. So
Sure.
the moments where you're like, I got that reference,
Yeah.
very Steve Rogers. Sort of like, I understood that reference. I got really excited when I saw Serenity. I was like,
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool.
flying in on Serenity.
Okay,
So hold on,
let's
hold
do
on.
this real. Okay, go ahead.
Let's do non-spoilery parts first, because that's what we've already spoke about so far. So non-spoiler wise, how do we feel about the overarching film, like the storylines, the plots?
I kind of want to take a stab
Eh.
at that. I think that it was just fine. I think Spielberg. I mean, clearly Spielberg knows what he's doing. Look at his filmography. This film felt Spielbergian.
It did.
It was if you removed all the nostalgia that this movie has layered on top of it. Honestly, it just felt like a pretty straightforward film. Very like feel good. Will they? Won't they? I mean, there's all these little
very, very
Yeah.
straightforward. This is made, I feel like, very much for like 13-year-olds. This is a teenager film. This is not an adult film. It's not a child film. It borders on more of a childlike film.
I could even say like young adult. I'd be okay.
Yeah.
with,
There we go.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very YA.
Yeah.
The plot is. I mean, I say straightforward, but it is a fun twist on that straightforward plot, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're clearly borrowing like a lot of things from. What's the one that I kept hearing most about? Oh, Willy Wonka.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
a very
very much.
Willy
Yeah.
Wonka vibe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that it's fun to see that.
It boils
kind
down
of-
to that because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have the people who fell in love with it and
That's-
who are like, I'm gonna fight this
But
and get it.
that's my problem, is that the way the plot isn't really very strong. There's not a lot of
No.
substance to this. You get the idea, and I can't remember what article I read
Sure.
that I'm quoting. But this isn't just coming from my brain. Is that the I've lost my train of thought. God damn it.
Something about the plot not being super.
Oh
It was
yeah,
not made
that
for
you
that.
you
Yeah.
you get all of the, like, you see all of these people loving this stuff, but you don't see why.
Yep.
You have no idea why they're interacting with
it all
the
just went
things that they love.
Over your head if you didn't get it.
Yeah, and it's like, well, but why is this his favorite movie? What is it
Yep.
about this that he's interacting with that made this a cult
They
phenomenon?
were finding reasons to put things in.
Yes.
And that's what the movie felt like. Where
Yeah.
the novel was like, oh
yeah,
my gosh.
whereas like, okay, well, if you took all that away, then what's left is really, it's just sort of, nothing holds together.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like talking into a different language. There was a lot of programming stuff that was
Yes.
going on. Like if this was, we were talking about an app where it was just like
no
billions of
one would even
different
know
apps.
what IOI is if they don't really know what.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
code
yeah, that
is.
took me. When I was watching the movie I remember the first trailer that had dropped, and I definitely felt like it was two separate films. That I was watching a trailer for two different movies.
I agree with that.
And when they finally introduced the Sixers, and I was like, no, oh, okay, I see now how these are both part of the same world.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to disagree. That I don't think that if I'm understanding you correctly, I think this movie would have been okay even if it didn't have the nostalgia stuff in it. From what I understand, you guys
It
are
would have
saying
been a better film.
that is the only glue holding all of this together. But I think if you strip it down to its bare bones, the plot would have still worked out. It still would have been okay.
It's a very Avatar type of situation for me.
I don't think so, because if you strip out the nostalgia, you strip out the entire basis for the storyline. The storyline
I
is
agree with
based
you.
on a fanboy culture.
Yeah.
It's you're living in a world that is completely fucking wrecked.
Sure.
That is based on fanboy
for me,
culture.
It was a lot of like, if you take the film, for me, the most comparable film for it was Avatar. A lot of pretty things going on, but if you take out
Yeah.
everything, it's basically Pocahontas.
yeah,
and for
yeah,
this
it's,
one-
and it's a very old school. It's an
Yeah.
old arc.
Very classic, like very classic
Hero arc, yes.
Yeah, and they were not pulling any punches. They were not trying to make anything exaggerated. It was just very straightforward, and it was very much a young adult film.
Yeah.
Which
But obviously, with again, I kind of agree that, and I definitely don't want us to like run in circles because I feel like that's where this might go.
yeah,
That the story inside of that world very much could have been that, but there is an extra layer there with the VR and living in the other world, which I can't think of another time that was done this well.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like you look goofy when you're on ER or VR. It's like the great thing about
Yeah.
that is that they made VR look goofy. Like there's no way you can make
Yeah.
VR look good. That's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah,
There's
and they
no
played
way.
with that too when they're like filling up on each other and they're like, "Ooh, he's touching my
Ooh,
balls,"
yeah.
or whatever.
And
yeah.
it's like
That was
you see kids in the street.
hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. And let's move on to that. Like, what do we think about the actors? Do you think that they casted well? This wasn't like a lot of big names.
I think
I think it was fine.
I think
Spielberg does this where he
Yeah.
casts a lot of kids
Yeah.
that don't have a big.
timeline wise, it's very short. This feels like it's push because inside the novels, this takes place over like years.
Yeah,
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 and
because he
in-
moves out of Oklahoma City. Yeah, he ends up somewhere else. and
He
he goes through
transfers
Yeah, this is very
around.
quick.
Yeah.
It's
He
not
has a
something-
training montage.
An actual
Yeah.
training montage.
Yeah,
He gets
there's-
into like crazy good shape.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know.
How long does this take place over? Several days? Like a week?
this
Several
this
weeks?
takes over like maybe weeks tops.
Tops.
Maybe. Yeah.
I cannot imagine it taking longer than 6 months because they push
Yeah.
this so fast.
Yeah.
And what it feels like, there's no breath in
Everything
between.
is pushed really fast. When he finally meets Artemis,
That's way too quick.
there's just moments where you're just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what you're doing, but don't touch her face.
Yeah, this is
Literally,
Oh my gosh.
literally just
You
you
just
just
met, like,
her
2 seconds
and
ago.
in that moment in the movie, I saw it with Dom. Both of us were like, no, don't.
So yeah, that
Stop.
was.
Don't be a
that.
creepy
And he
nerd.
says he loves her like so
And I'm like,
fast.
no,
Oh
and
my
she's like,
gosh.
seems
So
okay
fast.
Relationships
with
are
this. But I'm like,
forced.
no.
Relationships are forced so fast in this film.
I
Yeah, they
agree, but
really are.
also to be clear, like how many? I mean, we all live in nerddoms, right? How many
Yeah.
times have you
Oh,
known
yes.
people
Oh, yeah,
where
that
they
makes
did
sense.
that online, especially us growing
Oh,
up
yes.
during that time?
And also just like
That's what it was.
I know,
in
but
real life.
this is in a but the way it's portrayed it is sort of like that
So
this
normal.
isn't ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
And
is-
you're like,
right.
It's not.
no.
Yeah. Like even in real life, like
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
there's
It's
a-
fantastical
Yeah.
in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was fun and it was just okay. Like I feel like my brother said that he told me he thought Spielberg is losing his magic, and I agree. I do. I'm sorry. I think it's kind
He's
of
losing
sad.
that touch.
He's
Yeah.
kind of losing his touch a little bit. But you know what? That's okay. Because I still had fun and it was decent. I would give it like maybe a B minus,
Oh,
C
let's hold
plus.
that for that. Let's hold that for
Look,
later.
yeah, hold
let's
up.
hold that for
Back
later.
back
Okay.
to the actors
Yeah.
though. I did. It wasn't until the very end that I was like, okay, that was Mark Rylance, because I was like, what the fuck
What's going
is he
on
doing
here?
in this
How are
movie?
they-
He's
yeah.
like, let me just take a
did
break
they
from
jump
doing
in?
Shakespeare at the National Theater in London, to be in Ready Player One as like a weird,
And they're weird.
really
homages.
weird, like, gamer program. He's such a strange character, and he does so well
Deals
with
with
that
autism, and it's-
he
yeah.
just doesn't. He's in a completely different movie almost because
Yeah.
he's so fucking committed.
In
Right.
the
He's
character
probably
he
like-
plays
And he's
is so
like
out there.
his like most intense scenes are against like a CGI like fish man.
Oh,
Sorry, he looks like he's got scales. I thought
Yeah.
I thought the texture on both him and Artemis was really interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder,
That
is that
CG
a
path.
reference that
Yeah.
I'm not getting?
Well, a lot of it is just like that is very Tron-like, and that was the reference for
Okay,
that. Marty
so that's
had
what it
all
is.
those things,
Pixelization.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
like
well, it's not
Tron more
necessarily.
than
It's
this.
it's almost like somebody laid
Yeah.
fishnets over his face and put highlight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
I was like,
They were
I mean, I'm
cutie.
into it, but I just didn't understand if
I
that
thought
was
it was
like
just
a
like that was
reference
like a
or-
facial rendering, and that's what it looks
Oh,
like.
yeah,
But
it's
that's
very-
what I
it's
thought.
also-
But then
it's
there's
mostly
other
CGI, yeah.
faces in there that are rendered differently.
Sure.
So that's why
Yeah,
I thought maybe it was a
let's talk about
choice.
the ratio, CGI to real world, like how does that fit? Did you guys like that?
I enjoyed it. I thought the CGI was.
I thought the
like,
CGI was great.
Was really well
the
done.
dancing
Uncanny Valley,
scene
man.
in the club with
that
her
was really
dress.
good.
I was like, she looks like a fish.
Yeah.
She's just like a beta
Yeah.
fish or something. It's amazing. I would
Yeah.
so if we had the Oasis, I would never leave.
I would never.
I
yeah.
would be one of those people. I'd
It's
be
true.
like, I just live to be here because
Yeah.
this is the coolest fucking place in the universe.
Right, and she
So-
drove Akira's motorcycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for that guy
so
to go.
great.
was
So,
dope.
so should we switch over to spoiler territory now?
Yeah, of
Should we
course.
head
Sure.
over there. Okay. So let's right now, Fernando. Let's have you talk about the film, like or the book.
Okay.
Just the book. Well,
Well-
let's tell us what the story is. We're just gonna go full on the 3 challenges.
Yeah.
And the relationships
Uh-huh.
with best friend and
just
love
between
interest.
Parzival and Artemis was just the fact that they gave that a very slow burn, and to hear that they just kind of shoved it in there real quick, just like
Slow burn would have been nice.
Yeah.
Slow burn is a lot better.
Well,
than
and
that.
it was
It
the
would've been
fact
nice.
that everybody was looking for the keys in the book, that they were looking, originally because those challenges were deep, where it was
Really,
like he
really
goes into a movie and he has to
Yeah, yeah.
as a character he has to know all of the dialogue, like
Yeah.
you
You
get
play
like
through
one
the whole
chance.
film. Yeah.
You get one fucking chance, and it was like you go into this virtual arcade and you have to play this particular game at this right time, and everybody is hunting for these incredibly obscure clues. Because again, the way that they did the Willy Wonka thing is it could have been anybody who did it.
Yeah.
The way that you just had to be that much of an obsessive freak over every little bit of pop culture that they had.
What a weird megalomaniac thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really was.
I kind of
'cause-
like that.
You
But when
want
you're a
control of my?
trillionaire-
You need to pour through the entirety of my life
Yeah.
and find
That I
the Easter eggs
recorded.
of
Go-
my life.
Yeah, and go over every little thing that I
This
like.
trillionaire
And everybody
spent
was
so much
doing
time.
this shit, and it was so strange how deep everybody got in, and it was just like and then Artemis
Favorite
wasn't who
foods,
he
favorite
thought,
things,
who
everything.
he thought she was,
Yeah.
and it was crazy because they were looking for the copper key, then the jade key, then the crystal
Crystal.
key,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
Yeah, just to be able to.
Okay, and what is the movie that what's the second challenge the movie is
I mean, book.
No,
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 no. In the
second
movie
challenge.
that they
What's
the
the
second
movie?
challenge,
Yeah,
the
what is-
separation.
What's
yeah.
the movie?
God damn it. Okay, it's been
It's Ferris
It's not-
Bueller's.
yeah. Okay,
Ferris
all
Bueller's
right.
Day
It's
Off.
been a
It's
couple
not
of
The
years.
Shining.
I
since
loved
No.
that they did The Shining though. That made me
That's a great
laugh.
bit. So that's a
and
big
then I
change
was
that they
like,
had.
okay,
Right.
because they did like in the bathtub, and I was like, they're
It's
not gonna,
really
but I really
great.
want them to do the furry scene.
Yeah.
I really want there to be like weird furry fellatio
Yeah,
just
in
so
this
that
movie
face
right
up
now.
from the laugh and just
Oh my.
Yeah, that
God.
was.
Yeah, they didn't quite go there.
There was
but
a good choice
was
that
still
that
pretty
one of the
good.
characters hadn't seen The Shining.
Yes.
Because then it allowed all the hijinks
Oh,
to
and I
ensue.
love it that H is like this gigantic like orc, and is
I don't
like,
wanna-
"Hey, I haven't seen The Shining. Is it scary?
Is it scary?
Is it really scary?" And
What do you mean you've never seen this movie? It's a
it's
classic.
like, we don't want to go back to that room, guys. We don't want to go to room 237.
Worst
There's
room.
a crazy old lady in there.
I love when he's like, I can't do this. Oh, I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna roll with it. And like that was a twist I'd known already.
So they-
that
yeah,
got
they
spoiled
replaced the
for me
film.
early on, where I was like, oh, I know that H is actually a girl, that she's like a lesbian.
And that was a big part of the book.
Yeah, well,
That's-
and that made that made that scene where she was like, "Hey, you actually have no idea who this person is."
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
They could be,
300 pound
Pounds
guy
named
named
Chuck.
Chuck.
Who lives in his mother's
living
basement.
in
Which was a good
Iowa.
scene.
Yeah, it
And
was a
I-
great
honestly,
scene.
that was in
Idaho.
the book as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't click for me that she was foreshadowing about herself.
Yes,
And that was
she's
cool.
Like,
That was a good reveal.
And it was
I'm
very
also
normal.
not who you think I am.
Yeah.
They
fucking
normalized it so
dude.
fast.
Yeah.
They normalized it so fast inside the movie. And that's great. But like that was such a big build that I think would have had a lot more impact because it just isn't an impact. It's just a split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing for a post Gamergate and a very like accepting world that we are in right now.
Right.
But at the time, like, that was a very different reaction.
It's a
Was
lot
was
more
his home
controversial.
destroyed in
His
this?
house was
by
destroyed.
the
Yeah,
fucking missile
yeah.
strike.
But that is a weird change they did to that too, because
Yeah.
the moment is like one day of just being there and not really understanding the family.
Was
They gave it the dynamic.
Okay, I forgot what their names were, but was he still teaming up with like the other guys, like the Japanese brothers?
Yes.
And-
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
The two brothers are there.
And Daisho.
Show.
Yeah.
Show, yeah.
But
Those guys were awesome.
God, it's just such a weird thing because their parts in that were a lot smaller too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
They're-
yeah.
they are very
Super
much
small.
a backseat.
Although I did love his like super awesome
Oh,
samurai
yeah,
moment where
it's like-
they were like, "Hello, are you coming in at any moment now?" And he's just sitting there and he's like,
Fucking getting zen, man. Give me a second. Give me
"It
a
is
second.
time."
Yeah.
It's like,
That's a
yes,
great
it
little-
is.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna do, but it's amazing.
Yeah, they didn't delve into those characters, but there was a little bit of passing of time when you realize that they're all friends of friends of friends, and they're all starting to kind of hang out.
They are a clan.
They're
yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of-
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's they
turning into
started
a
them as
The
a
high
clan.
five.
Right, yeah.
And
This
we,
is-
it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we weren't able to fit in
So
as
much of that
much
world.
as you probably could
Yeah.
have in
Yeah.
the books.
Again,
obviously,
it had to be a series if we were going to
but
do
I
that.
think it's okay that they didn't spend a lot of time with those characters, because then it would have been a 3-hour movie, or
Sure.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could only do so much with what you
Yeah.
have.
It would have been a two-parter. It would have been like if
Yeah.
this
I would've
was
been okay
given
with
its
that.
I would've
love,
been fine
it
with
would
a
have been
two-parter.
it would have been
Right.
something like a Lord of the Rings type effect to
Yeah.
it. But they don't know if they could get that effect.
I
And
think a
understand that.
two-parter wouldn't have worked, and here's why. With the amount of love and hate, I wouldn't even say love. Is really, I don't know that there's much love for this movie, but imagine a second one. Him talking about a second one, like, would it have gotten anybody at the to the theaters?
If they got closer to the book,
If they had executed it better, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of the problems with it are not problems that Spielberg can fix. It's
Right.
their societal problems. It's problems of nerd culture. It's like
because it's
the
volatile.
idea of being a gatekeeper, and that you are only good enough if you know all of this.
Right.
That you are not a real gamer. You are not a real
Right.
geek. You are not worth anything.
You are not a true Scotsman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea of like, oh, but there's finally this one thing that like,
We
you know,
all
I'm
got.
I'm
Yeah.
really good at, and it's finally the thing that is going to save the world.
Right.
And it's like, okay,
Which is a theme
And-
for Ernest
Yeah,
Yeah.
and watching the film felt like that to me. Where like, you know, I'm cool enough. I'm
in-
just
I'm in the
enough in the in crowd that I get these references.
This is my niche.
But I can tell like when I don't,
Oh
I,
my
I
gosh.
it's
Out
a
of place.
cut. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh.
You don't make the line,
This
dude.
isn't.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
cool enough for
but
this.
how do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
how do you go live through the 80s and 90s and escape?
Well,
and
It's
escape
not
all of
that.
that.
But
It's
I'm
not
not a gamer,
about
and I
that.
didn't know like a lot of the
But
references.
you got a lot of references.
Sure,
I mean,
but
a
I'm just
huge
saying,
part of the
there
film
was
is
a
The
lot that
Shining,
I was
which
like,
just
huh?
references.
I
Yeah.
don't
Right,
know
yeah.
any of this.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's more that, you know, that's that your worth is defined by what
Right, I see what you're
by
saying.
what
Also-
you know, and also that like Artemis is really cool and she's really good, but she's not as good as he is. She
God,
can't
that
be.
relationship. Oh.
I'm going to say, on another front,
The Lancer.
with what you're
basically.
with,
Yeah.
with something that you think is problematic. Here's another potential problematic thing: is does this movie pass the Bechdel test? And I was thinking about that after the
No.
movie,
No?
and
Nope.
I think the Bechdel test, if I'm not mistaken, it's 2 women or female characters have to talk to each other for more than 2 lines or something like
Yeah,
that
or it's not
about
discussing
something.
That's
yeah,
not
no,
a
that's
guy.
not
Related
about
to a
men.
guy,
And I don't
yeah.
know that this movie has that.
No.
No, it fails
Did the
it.
book have it?
But
Not
no,
really.
no,
Okay.
this is very much a boy's dream.
And it was.
It
yeah,
is, and
it was,
you feel that.
Yeah,
and it was.
I was like, this is a
So
boys
feel
thing.
that.
It was
Yeah.
pretty
Even
much.
though that's
It's-
shit I get into.
yeah. There are some great moments for that, but this was very much like a boys' film. Like this
Yeah.
is like
It was-
oh
yeah,
my
it-
gosh.
And so, would it have been to the advantage of, or would it have been to the movie's advantage or Steven Spielberg's advantage to change the book in that way and make it pass the Bechdel test? For
Here's the thing: we have a lot of
Yeah.
great films that
That
don't pass
don't.
that test, and that's fine. But I mean, it doesn't need to. The Bechdel test is shitty, anyways.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not a
terrible
not a
test.
great. It's
Yeah.
it's really only meant as a,
like
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if
Well,
you put
so-
in a scene where there's 2 women talking about lunch, and that's
Yeah.
what they're talking about in
Yeah.
the classes. Like,
Yeah,
that's
but
a
this
shitty
is,
test.
I mean, the Bechdel
Necessarily
test is
make-
talking about
Yeah.
the bare minimum.
Yes,
of what
exactly.
You should, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
I also noticed that to be completely honest here, Alison Bechdel was like, I don't know why my name was attached to this.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It just
Interesting.
It's
It
a
was
dumb
just like,
test.
yeah, they just happened to be. It was like I happened to be. You know,
She got bored.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
Yep.
got bored and was like, do they have like one scene?
if there was
Speaking
just a
of-
reason for him to be better than anybody else, just other than the fact that he was, because this is the movie that we're watching.
You know,
Gosh, and that delves into that more when you go inside the book. The book is a lot of the fact like I'm not
Like,
different
what
from anyone
makes
else.
him different?
People
How
have
is
a whole
how
entire
does he
life
know
to this.
anything more
was-
than
Right.
than
Yeah.
Holiday? There's entire teams of people. How is he
There's
the
a
one
company,
who
a
figures this out?
multi-billion-dollar company.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
what?
So I definitely
And like
think
that even
that's-
surprises the curator.
Yeah.
He's like, no, they never mention this.
And
he's
why
like,
would
can't
that be
right?
empty?
Right.
Why would that library ever be empty when there's $1 trillion at stake? More than $1 trillion at stake. That place is empty. There's only 4 or 5 people who go in there all the time. That is bullshit.
I think as far
Yeah.
as that, research component of the movie, maybe that was a little. They were just kind of washing over it. Maybe
Yeah.
the reason for it.
'Cause-
But the reason, though, I mean that we come to find out in the end why he wins or deserves it is not because of any of that.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the
That's
power of
not. It
friendship.
turns out that that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is like love and friendship and all
Yeah.
those
Sure.
things.
Well,
Which
the
I think
point
is
of the story is reality is also great to live in, and yet we
Right.
get that and then
Yeah.
completely ignore it.
Completely ignore
it. Right.
Instantaneously.
It's
He's
like-
like, yes, I understand what you mean.
The outside's
30
really
seconds
nice.
later,
Let's go back in.
we're going. Yeah, like we live here now. Except for the like,
Hey, he
and
kissed-
then the
he
very
kissed the
kinda like
girl.
just
He
like
kissed
I'm
her.
okay with the levels of cheese for the most part
Yeah.
in this film, up until the slow turn of the chair, and
Oh,
he's wearing
the
like
chin.
a suit, and she's in like a fucking silk
he in a suit? I
dress,
didn't
and I'm
actually
like,
catch
what are you doing? This is weird. This is not this is a fanboy wet dream right here. This
Yeah.
is a 13-year-old
Yeah.
boy being like, this is what it will be like when I have a girlfriend.
Yeah,
And you're
there
like,
were there were parts that like made me cringe. Just being like, no, like even oh god, there are some points that just make me cringe. Where
There
you're
are
like,
some
you are
cringy
such a
points.
creeper
Not
dude.
okay.
Stop
Yeah.
touching her
He's
face.
a
Yeah.
creeper dude, for sure.
Stop touching
He's
her face.
He's a friend zone guy. That's what I feel like throughout the film. Like
He
watching him, I'm
is.
like, oh, you're one of those fuckers who blames a girl for not saying yes to you, and she's the problem for not saying yes to you. What the fuck?
You're
are you
that
doing?
dude.
Yeah,
You're that dude.
You are believing in this fucking construct, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just chill out. Oh my god.
On a
Yeah.
I did
positive
like that
note-
moment though, where he was like, I can't remember. It was she's like, "Oh my god, how are you not? How you're still playing?" He's like, "Yeah, it's a long story. Sorry, I shot you."
That is the quintessential gamer boyfriend, gamer girlfriend. Just like, sorry, babe, I gotta keep going.
Yeah, that
sorry.
was a great one, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool.
Like, it's
Get
I'm
it.
not gonna hold it against you. Like, I understand."
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Jeff?
I was gonna say, like, on a positive note, I did like some of the themes that I'm sure the book and the movie were going for in terms of like
Yeah.
connecting with people for people who have trouble with like social interaction and how like that's through gaming. It's a way to connect with people and
It did make me
have
connect.
friends, and
Yeah.
I liked that part of it. I liked the I think that was probably the main message that I took from
Yeah.
it that I actually liked.
Also,
I
a way to
liked-
like escape like his awful situation.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
This is
liked
the
the
way-
rallying call of like, "Hey, they're
This is a
trying to
home.
take this away from us."
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That the people who are trying to take this are gaming the system, and they are not going to leave it the way it is. They're
Right.
going to take over, and it's not going to be what we love about it.
Right.
So, will you join me in this fight? And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we
People
will.
that resist
Yeah,
God.
we will."
This is our second home. This is
They're
just
all
ours
gonna
and
come.
all of
Every
us.
single
Yeah.
one of them's gonna come. And the fact that Nolan did not see that coming is like, wow, you really
You
are not
lose it.
part of this culture at all.
That was
from the beginning. You've been talking about how to monetize it. It's never been about the enjoyment of this for you.
that rallying call and when they all show up at the end. That was one of my favorite scenes when they kind of like cut to the street and it's just a bunch of people fighting like
Yes,
the air.
yes.
That
Just
was
a lot of
so
air.
funny. It's just they're all
It
sitting
was
there.
great. It
It's
was
so
so fun. And I
good.
do. I mean, we have TJ Miller has some issues, but that was really funny.
Yeah.
And
TJ Miller-
How's it doing? And
Oh,
he's
yeah,
like,
it's a-
seriously,
he-
I think I'm gonna have to see a chiropractor. It's just every time.
Just every time I turn my
head-
neck this way, I just can't do it. He plays this weird character
He's
that I don't
funny.
remember from the
He's
book.
funny.
Okay.
I'll give him that.
He's a mercenary who's charged with trying or is
Yeah.
supposed to go after him. He's just a bounty hunter that goes
Yeah. He's a
after.
bounty hunter,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a
And
bounty
I-
hunter.
yeah, I know
His
that.
name is
Yeah.
IROC. It's pretty great.
Yep.
Wait, I remember IROC.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they changed
okay.
IROC's whole persona. I feel like
yeah,
from my
because
remember.
IROC was somebody who was a rival
Yeah.
of Parzival's in the thing, and they would constantly have those little contests
button
of
heads.
knowledge, and but they would do
Yeah.
it in H's
in
gaming
H's
room.
basement.
Okay.
Yeah, and H's basement
Okay.
used to serve. So in the books, H's basement was where everyone used to hang out. This is
Yeah.
their little niche club. So
Yeah.
they didn't know the other group of people.
That looked like an '80s basement. Yeah.
And it was a great little homage to all things holiday because that was
would've
like a
been cool.
holidays basement type
Yeah.
thing. And that's where all the cool kids got together. It's a little special club,
quote unquote.
quote unquote.
Because
Yeah.
holy shit, that was some nerd fantasy shit
my
right
gosh,
there. Where
yeah.
they were going to be like basically doing the dozens on each other over who got better '80s pop culture bona fides, and everyone's like, "Oh!" And he was like, "I can't
See?
believe you didn't know Family Ties." You know,
See,
kind of-
right? And it's just like, now I don't want to be involved in anything that you do because that's how you react when I don't know something.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a great way of
It's-
promoting
it's-
inclusion. Like, let's
Yeah.
ostracize.
and
Yeah.
Because
the
I
same
haven't
things.
seen,
'Cause
you know,
it wa-
this
yeah.
30,000 times.
Because it was Uber Nerds et al. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really what it was.
Be
And
like, you put me up on a Monty Python and the Holy Grail, though, and I will kill you.
Get up on that. Yeah, like you're all ready for it. And this basement, it was what the library was.
Oh,
It was
okay.
their information center. It was like, guys, we got to go back. Let's go back through this. What was this? What was the release of Nintendo? Blah
That
blah
makes
blah. That, came
that
out
makes
that
more
time.
sense. The idea of like if there was a big library meant for everybody, like how has it
That's
been
not-
this
yeah.
Was
long
that-
that
Rather
someone
than-
hasn't figured this out?
Was
Yeah.
the same twist in the book?
No,
in the
that
movie
wasn't a
with,
part of it
with
at all.
Simon Pegg's character being. Nope.
Okay.
No.
Do we like
Interesting.
that? Do we like that twist?
I thought it was cute.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
actually
a
thought
good
it was
I
fun.
thought it spoke a little bit to something that we didn't see and they never mentioned, but the idea that Halliday and his friend like ended up mending fences.
Right.
Yeah.
That they
Yeah.
were friends. That they managed.
Yeah,
to,
because you're under the impression that they like
that
they,
they
there
are
was a
not.
big rift.
That
Right.
yeah, and this is his biggest regret.
So
Right.
Is that he pushed
in the
him out.
movie, what ends up happening is like we talk about the relationship that ended it all, but we never talk about what happens after that.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the end of it, what you get is okay, this happened. They got together. They're still good friends. They still know that they were good friends for each other. In the novel, it's different. Like in the novel, their relationship completely changes from the fact that like she kept in touch. They all had these things where they were still tiptoeing around each other the whole entire time.
And the wife has died in the book as well.
She died. Yes,
Got
she
it.
definitely died. And it just they handle the relationship very differently, which I think is better because for that amount of time you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just hard to do. So that's the improvement
Yeah.
I do like from that.
So I don't know
Yeah.
how you guys are feeling, but I'm thinking we can get towards the end here.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah,
One of
I
them
could talk
is
longer about
kind
this.
of
talk all
yeah,
night.
we could probably talk all night, which is actually I think saying something about the film.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fact that we
yeah,
could talk
that
about
it's
Yeah.
that it's thought and discussion
It was a
provoking.
good
Right.
Yes.
time.
Yeah,
It
which
was
is-
a good time. I'll give you that.
Yeah, let's do
Spielberg.
maybe go ahead.
Let's talk about my favorite moment.
No,
Yes.
oh yeah, let's do
Let's do favorite moments.
Let's do favorite moments, least favorite moments. Okay, so I got favorite moments, least favorite moments, final thoughts, and then I want you to do your favorite references at the very end. I don't know if
Okay.
that leads in with favorite moments, but go ahead.
Yeah. Favorite moments? Mecha Godzilla
Yeah.
versus RX-78, the original
Yeah.
fucking Gundam.
That
Because
was cool.
seeing that in true CGI, in American CGI, and at best possible way possible,
Yeah.
it's just the most beautiful thing in the moment. And I was like, oh my god, this is so great.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think I would definitely freak out about
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
and
Okay.
that was the moment for me. That was my favorite moment by far.
Do you have a least? Oh, I guess we'll do favorite for all of us first.
God. It's so it's not, I guess it's not that memorable because I'm having a hard time remembering.
That's okay.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
I really liked when he went when he got the first key and he drove the DeLorean backwards. I liked that. I thought that was cool.
That's
I
a
liked
cool-
Iron Giant.
I know we gotta talk
I
about
liked
this.
Iron
Me and
Giant coming in. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess those are some parts that I enjoyed.
good moments.
I guess so. Favorite moments kind of turning into references, which I'm okay with. Mecha Godzilla. I grew up watching Godzilla movies. That was fucking awesome.
And cool little factoid is like Zach had like fucking every.
I know.
like,
I was very surprised if you guys don't see the Godzillas up
Yeah.
here.
There's like a shit ton of them.
Yeah, I love God. So that was really cool to see Mecha Godzilla. Iron Giant, one of the best movies of all time. Super cool to see him. And
saw that in
then
the trailer.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
like
really
a little
nice.
confused because I was like, is it the Firefly? Is it the Firefly? Is
Yeah.
the, or the Serenity or
Yeah.
whatever? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was that was super. That was cool.
Yeah.
Word.
Cool. Yeah. And that's all from Shaito. Or what's that? Is that a name?
Daito.
Daito.
That's Daito's ship.
I can't remember their names.
Oh, I actually did love the racing backward of the DeLorean because it reminded me of when you can in Skyrim. There's a couple different spots, but you can fall through the floor essentially and run around like under a
Yeah.
city under Whiterun.
yeah.
It's fucking amazing. When I was shown this, I was like, "This, my mind is being blown." And that's what it felt like. You could see it was like that
Everything.
he's driving through the mechanics of the game, so you can all the
blueprint.
all of the obstacles that pop up. He's watching them pop up from. They're like on pedestals and they're
Yeah.
being like flung through the top.
time to go.
Which is, by the way, how the Colosseum did their fights.
Yeah.
Or they would pop. Yeah,
They
they
would
come
pop
up.
up.
It's pretty. That was pretty rad. I thought
That also reminds me of in Mario Kart 64. There was a level where you could jump over the wall and kind of skip everything.
Oh, yeah.
At the very beginning, reminded me of that a little bit too. And they talk
Little
about Mario
shortcuts.
Kart. For
It's
a
all
second
about
too.
shortcuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Least favorite parts?
Where to begin?
Just the so in the novel, how they get into IOI and that whole scenario changes because in the book there are months spent where Wade gets caught on purpose and he
Right.
spends months inside there just developing a plan
Yeah.
on how to take them down internally.
Right.
And in the book, it's switched over to Artemis doing it.
Yeah. Because they're offering him
You mean in the
work,
movie?
and it was
Yeah.
just like,
In
yeah,
the
because
movie,
they've
yeah.
been trying to get him onto their side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And it's a very, very different thing inside the film. And I don't know if I like that because there's so much that takes away from for me personally, and that's just I'd have to go on a rant for that.
Sure,
So.
sure. Jess,
Um.
do you remember the movie?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had a couple parts I didn't like. I didn't like the boyfriend of his aunt and that whole kind of scenario. And then,
oh, Rick.
yeah,
He plays Rick pretty well.
Yeah,
That was a
Who
good
is Rick?
actor
Yeah.
to
I don't
choose for
remember.
that
Okay.
part.
I don't know. I don't like the way it was handled. I think it could have been handled better. And then
He's just as trashy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And then I don't know. I feel like there were a couple moments where, like you guys were saying earlier, where he was just where the main character was just kind of a creeper, where Parsifal was a creeper towards Artemis, and yeah. So
I agree
was
with that,
gross.
but and I'm not saying it's okay by any means, but it's just that I've seen that so many times because I've lived online growing
It's a
up.
trope, yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
it's a
it was an
trope.
actual thing that happened. And
Falling
so
in love
like
with any
and that yeah
female
like how
avatar.
many
Oh,
times
Lord.
I mean we were talking the other day we'd spend some portion of our life in like AIM messenger groups and
Yeah.
that yeah, so in that way it feels a little realistic to me.
sure.
From 1996 to about 2010, I was not single. So it was just like, so growing up in that, just like, I skirted all of it.
I was also not
Very
single because
fortunate.
I was married to 4 women in AIM messenger groups. I guess my least favorite parts, aside from kind of the Bechdelian things, there's some of the cheese. You said you were okay with some of it. I think some of it was like just a little too much.
too on
Where
the nose.
I agree that like
Yeah.
okay, this feels like it's for like a 10-year-old, like
Yeah.
the kissing parts and things like that.
Yeah.
And
cringy.
then
Is this a kissing movie?
the other my other least favorite
Something.
was actually also I thought it was just kind of a lame move. I think they were trying to do like a haunted mansion dance scene
Oh, yeah.
within The Shining, and I thought that like
Didn't like
challenge of just jumping from one dancing thing to the next was a little bit like lame. That could have been
Lame.
cooler.
Which is it's funny because like in the book there's a moment like that, but
Okay.
it's done more entertainingly.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I can't imagine it is because you're just jumping from a dancing group to a dancing
God, it
group.
looks so
But
dumb, yeah.
but I just thought that was like whatever. Least favorite.
Yeah, just stop touching her face.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
That-
It
By
really, it was such a weird moment. I'm like, the romance has been forced the whole time, and I'm like, it's fine. like, I get it. I know this. This is a Mary
So bad.
Sue fan fiction, but it's fine. Like, I'm here. I'm with you.
Oh,
And then it just that
cringe.
makes me so
All the cringe.
uncomfortable.
Was it the Tomb of
And she
Horrors
seems to be
meeting?
fine with it too, where she's like,
Yeah.
it's cool, like you can touch my face, and I'm like, I don't. You've literally,
No.
you're the one. You got mad at him because
Yeah.
you're like, you don't know who I am.
And then you just gave in.
You can't
Yeah,
tell me
just-
that you're in love with me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, but now I've met you. I'm not disappointed. I've known you for 35 seconds. Your skin is very soft, and I'm
It's-
still in love with
in
you. And
movie
she's
time, it's
like,
been 2
well,
weeks.
you've met me now, so I guess
Yeah.
it's fine.
And you have one scar that's
I-
not in any way disfiguring.
Again, though,
And does not detract from the
agree
movie at all.
that you shouldn't have done that. But to say that you've known her for 35 seconds would be also like unrealistic. He's known her for 2 days.
What says like
no, he woke up, and they end up going upstairs. It's that same sequence. It's not long.
Well, what
when
I'm
he's
saying,
met
what
her
I'm saying
in
though is
real
that
life.
Yeah,
what
in
I'm
real
saying is that
time.
they had a relationship prior to that, and although it wasn't an in real life relationship,
Yeah.
they had one.
it was a
Yes,
relationship
but-
but still,
of
I know,
like
I know,
I've
but-
had internet friends. Like
Yeah.
I know how that. Where I grew up alone. If I was on the internet, I'd live on the internet, and it still would just be such a weird, gross violation of personal. Because it's like I don't
Yeah.
know you yet, and
Right.
I don't know what's okay and what's not okay. And there's people in my life that I know now that I'm still like, is this like an okay time to touch you? Because I just like
is
to
this
touch
okay?
people.
Can I ask you? It's like the first kiss where you're like, I'm so nervous. I'm gonna ask. Can I kiss you now?
Like,
Is
can I
that-
do this?
yeah, is
It-
that,
Is that okay?
That with me. It was
Well, I
really
asked.
cute.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's
it-
adorable to
fucking
ask.
consent.
It's really cute to ask. It would have been
Consent
a cuter
is a great
moment
thing.
if
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah.
not disappointed. Can I?
Is it okay if
Is
I
it okay?
kiss you?
Can
if
I
I
move
touch
your
face, yeah,
hair?
can I
Right.
just want
You
to
know,
see you.
and
Yeah.
then if she's like, okay,
This
and
would have
because
been a
that's
great-
a
yeah.
vulnerable moment of like, yes, you can move my hair. I'm letting you see this part of me, and I'm not taking any. I'm not doing it myself. There's a sense of like, if you do it, it's fine.
There was a
And
no form
then
of consent.
that moment could have been less creepy of him of that moment of moving the hair into a slight caress and then a little like a
Yeah, they didn't even like put the music there. It's just like
I'm
Moral of the
sorry, and
story.
it would have just been like a cuter, awkward, like romantic moment rather than like they were really trying to play it like this romantic moment.
and
I
it was not.
like,
There
this
was no
is not
music
working.
there. It was none of
There's
that.
no chemistry between the two of you.
Consent is sexy, guys.
There's
Never
two very
underestimate.
good chapters.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole book is very good, but if you haven't read the book, You're Never Weird on the Internet by Felicia Day. It's a very good perspective of
It's-
women
yeah,
in
it's
this
great.
culture. One of which is like Gamergate. She talks about at the end, but there's one where she talks about meeting up with all these people that she met online, and so I'm thinking about that a lot as you're talking about it, and it's very interesting because it's a very different, like separated culture, I think, than people above 27 don't know about, or
Yeah.
35 or whatever, somewhere around there. So give that book a read, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes it, and it makes sense that there's this a sense of I know who you are. I don't
Right.
know what you look like, but I know who you are.
Right,
And
right.
I know how you act, and I can recognize who you are because I recognize the sound of your voice,
Right.
which
Yeah.
every superhero movie ever.
Yeah.
Every
It's
Superman
done wrong.
movie ever. It's not the glasses, it's the voice. That's the thing.
If I can close your eyes and
He's
still
the
know who you are.
same
Like,
dude. He
Jesus
looks the
Christ.
freaking
Yeah.
same.
But
How
that's
dumb are you?
always a big thing where I'm like, if
Yeah.
it's I have a very hard time believing any person who's like, I've met a superhero and I'm also dating their alter ego and I don't recognize their voice. And if I've ever met them, like, what are you doing in your relationship if you don't recognize your partner's voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
People in comics are dumb.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, everybody, so we can wrap this guy up. I mean,
What's yours?
Thanks for the holy hand grenade reference.
Great
oh,
And I
Borderlands
give
2
you
reference.
Yes,
Yeah.
that too.
Borderlands.
and I give you like a solid 6 out of 10. It's an enjoyable movie.
I'm gonna give it a high 7, maybe even low 8. Honestly, I'd watch it again. It was a good time.
I'm gonna go with the 6 out of 10, or like I was saying earlier, like a C plus. Yeah.
Yeah, really low 70s. I don't know. I have to give this like a really low to mid 60s because I can't. It's hard for me to get on the side of this film, especially for reading the book and like how they deal with a lot of things that Ernest Cline did deal with better. It's a boy's fantasy, but they treated it. They made him a creep, and it's like they made this whole film like very pushed and nonchalantly just blowing
And
everything
yeah,
back.
and it feels extra creepy in the
Yeah.
world that we live in now.
All right. So, what did you guys think? Please let us know in the comments below, and make sure to tune in to Color Circuit's programming every week, every day on twitch.tv/Color Circuit Live. Also on our YouTube page, our Facebook page, etc. Please subscribe, like all of the verbs. I think we did name intros in the beginning, right?
I'm
pretty sure we did.
Don't
Yeah,
have
we
to do
did.
it again, but
Yep.
thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. I'll definitely be in those comments.